Today we have a special guest, Nadine from Nadine's Dots, to help us learn how to make your own rocks and shapes for art dots or mandala dots. Thank you so much for being here. We have lots of tips and ideas for you, so here we go.
I should introduce myself. How's that?
Okay, sounds good.
There you go.
Okay. Hi, my name is Stan from ComposiMold, and I'm here with...
Nadine Blaisdell from Nadine's Dots.
I was supposed to hold this up earlier.
And you can find me on Facebook.
Facebook, Nadine's Dots, all one word. And what she does is, she is a professional artist who creates, how do you describe it?
Mandalas.
Mandalas.
Or dotalism or pointalism art.
We're using ComposiMold to make some castings of rocks that she uses for her dot making, and you brought in a couple of your dot samples.
I did.
So let's show some of those ones.
This is just it's painted on a beach stone.
Mm-hmm.
Go to local beaches here in Maine, and that's part of the hobby. You go and you find stones, but sometimes in the dead of winter we don't want to do that up here in Maine. So that was why I reached out to you and said, is there a way we can replicate what we find in the warmer months and have lots of product to paint on in the winter months?
Do you find that you need like a whole bunch of the same one, or people would like that if you're at a show or something?
I think a variety would be great. You know, just different designs work well on different, but the big, people would, this is a nice, hefty, nice size rock, and these are hard to find, the bigger ones, so it's, when you find them, it's a treasure.
So we can make those.
That's awesome.
So how we're going to go through is we're going to take one or a couple of your rocks, so you have other shapes as well.
Yeah.
We're going to basically just put it in a mold box, spray a little mold release on it, and pour ComposiMold onto it, and that's what we'll do today. We'll let that solidify by cooling, and then after that we'll probably use a ComposiMold plaster. Maybe we'll do one with a ComposiMold plaster, and then we also have a ComposiStone, which is a harder plaster, so we might do both just to see which one you like better.
Okay.
And then you can paint it and we'll see the final results.
Now,
So let's get started. ComposiMold Flex, the first thing we're going to do is find some mold boxes that fit these. A lot of people use Legos for mold boxes to build around it.
Legos?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. We're going to use whatever we can find.
That's why you
buckets.
have us various sizes.
Does this fit in there?
Yeah, no.
Really?
It would, yeah, but then, these would, probably two. You could do that, or this one, and that one.
That works.
Now, a question, if you're doing, this is sealed,
Okay.
and it wouldn't hurt
Nope.
that at all.
Nothing.
Okay.
No. Now, even with the rock, if you're using a wood as your original, your master, then you might want to seal it first. So use a little shellac or
Varnish
even
of some
varnish
sort.
of some sort just to seal it, and then you're good.
So will you, when you make the mold, if you feel that it's like dimensionals, will that come up?
Yeah,
that'll come
that'll
up.
show up. Yeah,
So
that's pretty
you
neat.
could, but on plaster or concrete, you could sand that smooth if you decided you want to replicate it, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Or you may want to use them again.
As a guide.
Yeah, that's cool.
That would be cool. Okay. And the same with this, because this has a texture to it, so you'll get the texture.
Yes, which is good in that, depending on what you want to make. So.
I actually resin them so I don't have the texture, because when you're doing the dots, I like to have a smooth surface. It helps two reasons: to wipe off your mistakes, not that I ever make any, and so you don't have divots in your dots.
Do you seal it and then you
Then I
dot it,
and then I
seal it again. Cool.
Nice.
Very nice. Do spray with.
So how long did you have to heat that up?
I did it for 2 minutes since I just did it beforehand. I did it about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago.
And it's still fine.
It's still fine. I have this and I have another one. It took probably about 3 minutes total for this, and this is about 40 ounces worth of ComposiMold.
Okay.
I actually use it as cubes, and I put it that way. Okay,
So
this is mold release.
Okay.
Very special thing called vegetable oil.
okay.
And just wipe it on it, and that's just making it so that it doesn't, if there's any, just separates it a little bit.
So front, bottom,
Yeah,
all sides?
mostly just the top is good for something like this. The rocks, you want to get all sides.
Okay. Okay, just the top on that one. So
Those ones probably doing it. Let's not even do it on those ones since they're already sealed already.
So this one?
Yeah, let's do the rock one. That works. So, and then this is Bubble Buster, which helps any bubbles come off the surface of it. So just spray it a little bit. Yeah, you don't need a lot, just. And then go ahead and pour.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'm stuck.
No secrets in terms of pouring, just pour it over it.
Just pour until you see it's covered, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's pretty good.
Okay.
See that? And add more of it. More around the rest of it.
The other thing, like oftentimes, people wanted a stand.
Oh,
it's like
cool.
how, I wonder if you could somehow incorporate a mold, so something in there that now it would stand up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me go to some clay.
Be a ComposiMold brush.
So no matter what, this stuff is biodegradable.
Uh-huh.
So always put it in your dishwasher and it'll go away.
Okay.
You don't want to do that because it goes away. But
Right.
Like the stickiness of your fingers.
I can go wash
You
it.
can wash your hands. Take that whole thing, stick it, and we'll use the ComposiMold container for a mold box.
Okay.
And we'll fill it back up again.
Now that our molds were ready, we let them cool to solidify, and we came back the next day to pull them out of the mold boxes and make our castings. So here we go.
You can use a spoon to sort of pull it out.
Okay.
Because we're using a flex, so it's going to be pretty simple to, after you get a little grip on it, you'll just pull right out.
Coming. There we go. Yeah, it's just getting it started. It's the hard part.
Yeah.
Start, shall we? Oh yeah. Perfect. All in shape.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. A little bit.
That's right.
But it's not going to matter.
No.
Neat. That's so cool.
Okay.
So that's black resin.
Yes.
No way.
Crazy, yes. Yeah. It's we have 3 different colors. We have ComposiCast clear, and we have ComposiCast white, and ComposiCast black. Or you can take the clear and you can color it any color you want. So we can do it either way. Since we know this is a deep dark black.
So, can you? Bleh.
Yes.
Do you sell these in larger quantities? Than okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is
This is a sample type pack.
right. Yep. Here's that's 120 milliliters. So we're going to do 2 cups of these to that. So it'll be about 50% filler.
Okay, 50. And you're using plaster.
We're going to use
pack.
plaster Paris for the filler, just
Okay.
because it's right here. Probably use those, squeeze them to go a little bit faster. That's it.
It's a cake, the consistency of cake batter almost.
The reason this is thicker is because we added filler to it.
Yeah.
And we added filler, so you use less of the resin, so it's less costly. You can do bigger sizes without overheating the mold.
Okay, because the resin heats up to cure.
This one's a pretty low heat, creates very little heat, but when you're doing bigger pieces, it's worth. It's better to use less anyways. Save you some money.
So that took almost all of it, really. I mean, I think it's gonna. I might have to put a little bit more in. So.
You want to tap it a little bit actually.
Now I know when I've used resin in the past, I can use a heat gun over it. It gets the bubbles out. But
That's a good idea.
yeah.
Which I don't have.
That's okay. So tap it.
I don't need to. This
Okay.
one.
Okay.
So
go
this is
right
a
ahead.
plaster release. Basically, it's a. Let's see this just gives a little barrier.
So whenever you're using plaster or just weird shapes.
When you're using plaster, yeah. So that just gives a little barrier to it. Extra.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to. Interesting.
So that's sticking up, alright?
I know.
Shape them over.
Bounce the plate up and down. That you concept again.
Okay, let's unveil.
All right. So what are we unveiling first? Should we show what we unveiled last week?
Sure.
First.
Yeah, well, sure. Sounds good. Yes.
So last week we unveiled. We did a mold of a rock, and we had built a base so it would stand up. So I went ahead and painted that, and it is now. You can put it on a shelf, and it's not on its back, and you can see the art. So it's kind of neat how that all worked.
Now the mold, she can reuse that mold or remelt it and make another shape whenever she wants to.
So how many times do you think you can use a mold like that when you're using the stone like that?
Something pretty simple. What I did after you left, which I didn't tell you, is I put a little vegetable oil in it just to keep the mold soft and pliable.
Okay. Yeah.
And then because there's no overhangs or anything, you could probably use this 15 times, maybe 10, 15 times.
Yeah.
And then whenever you need to, remelt it and do it again.
And you have artwork that you could remold it with. So, right?
Exactly. Anytime you want, exactly. Put a whole bunch at once and make a lot of ones.
Yeah.
And then there's the ComposiStone coming out. So that was done with ComposiStone, right? Yes.
Correct.
ComposiStone.
It's going to pop right out. Oh, nice. Oh, and it even has the design. Now, this one, yeah, those rocks are here because you have the Dragonfly Rock. This particular one was one that I had already painted, and we took a mold of it, and it has the raised dots, so you can see where the dots are. But it's simply, if you were going to do a piece that's already finished, that's going to sandpaper up fine.
Exactly.
Same with the back, you just kind of polish it, right? So that's kind of neat. Yeah, this one I was excited to do. And I know you're going to get the bumps on that, so I can replicate the design easily. Because we took a mold of something that I had already painted. Oh, that is neat.
Cool. So,
It's
And that ends our Art Dots or Mandala tutorial with Nadine of Nadine's Dots. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you learned something and want to try this for yourself. While Nadine was learning how to make molds for her mandala paintings, she also experimented with making some jewelry pendants. Here is Nadine explaining.
to make a pendant, I have to buy these bezels with the cabochons. And what you do is you have to paint on the back side with a multi-surface paint or enamel paint. And you have to paint backwards. So the trick is you gotta lay your dots down, then you gotta like perfectly lay your second layer on top of that dot, which is hard. And then you don't get as much detail, not as much detail as I liked. So I was like, there has to be a better way. So when we did this last week, I went home and I said, aha. So I took the ComposiMold and I made a mold of this cabochon. And then I used the same stone as we used, the Composi stone, and I took the cabochon out of the ComposiMold, I mixed the stone and poured it in and made little stone cabochons. And that's what this is made out of. And you can see I can add more detail. I added crystals to this. So what I ended up doing is you separate the stone from the mold, and then I just took a piece of sandpaper and worked the back side of the stone and the sides until it fit nicely into the bezel.
oh, cool.
Then I took a diamond, what's called a diamond glaze, and I suppose you could use resin as well, but diamond glaze is water soluble, so it's easy to work with this stuff. I put the diamond glaze on the back side of the stone, set it in, and then I glazed it. Then I painted it black, did my work, and then glazed it again. Then I added my crystal. So what that gave me is a way to do more detail.
Much more detail.
And not have to paint upside down. That was so much easier. So then the next thing I did, so I made those two that way with the stone. I used the same molds. I didn't have to remake the molds. And then I used resin and I colored it, the resin black. I use a colorant.
Cool.
So then I popped the resin out. Same idea. I used sandpaper to just kind of play with it so it fit perfectly in there. Then I used the same process of the diamond glaze underneath, and then I glazed the top. My next experiment will be using resin, but this was easy. The diamond glaze is waterproof, and you don't have to, you can do 1 or 2 at a time and not mix up a full batch of resin. So that really solved the issue of, you can get a lot more detail. You can get your dots centered without guessing.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Yep.
So those are resin. I'm not sure. I have, it just depends if you want just a black surface or you want to. There was more of a process with these than it was the resin. The resin one I just glued in, painted, then I glazed the top. I didn't have to paint them black.
These were the Composi stones.
That was the stone, and these were done in the resin.
Nice. Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So it solved the problem, and I just think it's a much better result.
Oh, much better. Much more detail in these ones.
Yeah.
All of those. Wow.
So that solved a problem that I was facing. So there you go.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's other things that we'll be able to, I'll be able to once. That was just like step one. Like, ooh,
Nice.
that was a light bulb moment.
That's very nice. Cool.
So, yeah.